Welcome. This is the 2021-2022 Capital Project Workshop. The board has adopted the project list that was produced by the Facilities and Grounds Committee at the March 31st board meeting. That is what we will be discussing today. It is the job of the board to talk about the projects that were presented to us and kind of rank them. The committee ranks theirs, but there are some other things that we need to take in under advisement as far as ranking them and getting them put in motion. First of all, if you fairly new as an audience member and everything, but we do have an agenda and another sheet over there on the table, and this is what we'll be discussing. First on the agenda is the treasurer and controller information. This is information that we need to talk about it. Then as we get down, we'll have comments from the Facilities and Grounds Committee. And then we'll have some discussion time for board and management. We will be looking at all of these and we will be talking about them. There are some projects that are already underway and we'll be mentioning those. So at this time, I'd like to ask the treasurer, the controller, Frank, are you going to do this?
Yes. Can everyone hear me? Oh, it's okay. Okay. Yeah. First off, I want to talk a little bit about the Capital Improvement Fund and dollars related to that, and then I'll get into the reserve. For the Capital Improvement Fund, each year we're allowed to spend a limited amount of money. There's always a maximum amount of money we can spend each year, because according to the bylaws, the controller is allowed, he takes the revenues, all the revenues in the previous year. 4% of those revenues is the maximum amount we can spend in total on capital projects for the following year. And for an individual project, it's 2.5% of that same total. The thing is, for 2021, it's about $470,000 is the maximum amount we can spend on capital improvement out of the Capital Improvement Fund, $470,000. And remember that 2020 revenues were not at the same level as normal. So we're estimating that for 2022, it will probably be about 480,000, maybe a little higher than that. But that'll be the maximum amount and of capital improvement that we'd be allowed to spend. Related to that, if you look at the Capital Improvement Fund today, we're sitting at about $1.5 million. So there's adequate money in that fund right now to cover our capital improvement spending for the next 2 years. And I'll highlight that so that you get the reason I'm highlighting that in my next information. Revenue from home sales, which normally goes into the capital improvement, it was 450,000 in the year 2020. It'll probably be similar to that in 2021, the way houses are being sold this year. Through 2 months, I've only got the 2 months data, the March is pending, but it was 85,000 in just the 2 months of 2021 that we received from home sales this year. So you can extrapolate that for the next through the end of the year, and we're going to be very close in 2021 to what we got in 2020. The budget for 2021 had money allocated to go both into the capital improvement and to capital reserve, and that movement hasn't come yet. Those deposits haven't occurred to either one of those funds. So the $1.5 million in capital improvement has not received what we identified in the budget. And in a second, you'll understand why I'm concentrating on capital improvement, so that you understand, hey, for the next 2 years, the amount of money that's in there is going to cover our needs, or a maximum that we can spend. The capital reserve, which is the other source of revenue, the other source of funds for any of the projects we take on. Currently, it's sitting a little under $6 million. Like I said, in this year's budget, we allocated $812,000 to add to the capital reserve fund. Brian and I have talked about it, and this goes back to why I highlighted all the information on capital improvement. Based on our bylaws, the controller has the flexibility of funds that are identified for capital improvement. He can direct those into the capital reserve. And we may well do that this year to keep that healthy. It's healthy, it really is healthy now, but if needed, we'll probably do that, because there isn't any point adding it to the capital improvement fund. It'll be just sitting there. We've got another source of income into the capital reserve fund this year, which is the balance of the facilities activity center. There's close to $300,000 sitting in that fund right now. And going and reviewing what to do with that, the best approach, the best use is to close that out and put that into the reserve as well. So in total, what we're looking at right now is we'll probably be adding about $1.5 million in 2021 into the capital reserve fund, which will put us probably about $6.5 million, and maybe a little more by the end of this 2021 year, which will more than cover. I don't want to say more than cover. It probably won't put a dent in the stuff we've got talked about. We're going to be talking about for 2021. It isn't going to impact the reserve all that much based on this $1.5 million that we're adding to it. So that's kind of the source for where we got going on. We will be reviewing the projects for this year and the status on each of those. But the other thing I want to mention as far as capital reserve, so you know what's coming up. If you look into capital reserve and reserve study, in the future years, we've got 4 major projects that are identified in there that will probably occur in the next 5 years. They're scheduled for the next 5. We'll have to see if that happens or not. And those are the renovation of the Palo Verde pump station, the renovation of the irrigation system on the Cottonwood Golf Course, the renovation of the irrigation system on the Palo Verde Golf Course, excuse me, and the renovation of the irrigation system that provides the water to the landscaping outside our community, the walls that we've got on the border of the community, the irrigation system that feeds those plants and everything else that's there, all of the landscaping needs to be renovated. And you'll see spots if you go down the road, no matter which road you're on, you'll see that there is needs because the irrigation system isn't working properly. So that's good. These are the four that are going to happen in the next 5 years. To get a handle on those, sometime in late May, let me back up just a second. The Audit Finance Committee has an assignment where they're looking at a funding plan for the reserve. Coming up with a plan on how to adequately fund the reserve on 5-year basis. 5-year basis, and then we'll go to the next 5 years. And in late May, there's a subcommittee. There's 3 folks on the subcommittee in the Audit and Finance. And in late May, we'll be meeting with Scott Anderson because all of these projects, these 4 I just mentioned, are all going to be in his bailiwick. And we want to review with him his thoughts on timing so we can get a handle on the timing, and then we can start looking at pricing, get some rough estimate, and then make sure that we got adequate funds in the reserve going forward to cover these things. And with that, so we can go back to the capital projects for 2021.
Sure.
Okay, well, I didn't want to steal any of Richard's thunder, so.
Feel free.
So I've got the list, I've got the status on these things, and I'm going to read them in priority order. And again, these are projects that came to the Facilities and Grounds Committee from residents, from staff, from interested folks, and the committee went through this with the folks who recommended them. And the committee has ranked them. And this is the priority sequence for these projects based upon the what we got from Facilities and Grounds Committee. The first one was to repair and replace the golf course pump stations that serve Cottonwood and Palo Verde. As most of you know, the pump station for the Cottonwood course is in progress right now, and we've covered about 1/3 of the cost. The board approved amount was about $289,000, was not to exceed $289,000, and about 1/3 of that has already been spent. We've covered about 1/3 of that. And there's certainly some bills pending. The second one was to repurpose the old fitness center. Initially, that was to redo and create a multimedia center, and the rest of that building wasn't really talked about for a little bit. And I think some of you know that's all changed. And the design of the redesign is for the entire building, and that's getting close to being completed. The architect is getting finished with his plans, and so we will know soon what the layout's going to be. Then we can start getting costs to do that. And we do have donations that are going to offset money that we normally would need out of the capital improvement or the capital reserve fund. So that'll be identified once it's all put together. But there are donations that'll be part of covering the cost of it. Replacing the deco drains and concrete around the Cottonwood main pool deck. The cost recently was determined on that. That's going to be $65,000. Continue with the replacement of the existing lighting and the LED lighting with LED lights. And this is number 4 on the list. And as you can hear, we've replaced the lights, and this is ongoing, and and as Jim and his staff see, as they get time and are able to do it, that's what's going on there. And the fifth one is replace, update, and improve the irrigation system that serves the plants around. This talks about Riggs Road. This is the project I mentioned. The project's probably bigger than just Riggs Road. Some of the other streets that have our border walls are included in that as well. And initially, the plans that were discussed is they're going to do it in segments. I doubt seriously that it's all going to be in 1 year. It's going to be in segments and hit the areas that need it the most first, and then we'll go on from there. So, and I highlight that again, so you know the impact on the capital reserve isn't going to be all in 1 year. It's going to be over several years. Update the decor in the Palo Verde restaurant. That's item 6, and it's certainly it's pending. I say it's pending, and background on that probably hasn't really started yet, but it's there, and I think there's a need, and Marshall's aware of that as well. Install hands-free. This is number 7. Install hands-free bathroom fixtures, toilet sinks, and urinals in all the HOA bathrooms in the community. Jim's taking care of that on an as-needed basis. Is that correct?
Right.
The next one is the extend the walking paths on the 5 lake common area, on the 5 lakes common area. That's under review. Number 8, which is 8, there was 2. This one and the previous one on the walkway for the 5 lakes. This was a tie. Improve the environment by planting more trees throughout the Cottonwood Palo Verde community, and that's an ongoing thing that occurs periodically throughout time. Number 9 was improve the water holding area at the end of Sis Park walking path. That's under review right now. Number 10, resculpture the number 5 green on the Palo Verde golf course. And as I understand it, this request has been around for some time. They're playing the course at the end of time. Play hole 5 days. They want to do something about that. So that's true. And Scott's got some thoughts that he thinks he can take care of it on a maintenance basis and get the job done, so satisfy all the golfers. And I think that takes care of me.
Okay, you kind of covered some things. There's some things there that
I didn't want to steal any of Richard's thunder, but once I get into it.
Now, thank you, Frank. Really appreciate that information. It's all duly noted. Next, we have on the agenda. This is where we get to hear some more comments from the facilities and grounds. And Richard Hawks, if you'd stand up and come up here to the podium. Yeah, that's as best as it gets. Okay, but before you get into there, you have some people that are here that are among your committee. I'd like you to introduce them to the board.
I have 3 members from facilities and grounds here today. They are the stable ones, since our committee is fastly deteriorating, and we will have a heck of a year adding members come the fall. Dave Hatch is here. Thank you, Dave. Diane Berry and Bob Trussell. They are kind of my rock with the committee for the church, so I knew they'd be here today. Now, what I can do, Roger, to speed all this up is I can just say, ditto to what Frank said. But as many of you know, that's not my stomach. If I get a chance, I'm going to talk to him. Let me begin by just mentioning how we go about this process in its totality. It begins each year with first a presentation with the liaison from the board at the meeting, where we talk about asking committees to submit projects. We ask the liaison to take our forms, give them to each of you, and you then in turn distribute them to the committees that you are liaisons for. That kicks off that phase of it. We begin then as a committee looking at projects that might be something that someone has told us about or we're interested in. So we'll start looking at stuff right away. Our real work begins in December when we get back all the proposed projects from committees, also from managers who submit the same web form. It's pretty specific in what they do. Managers have to fill it out just like everybody else does. They submit them. Those projects then become the meat of what's going to happen over the next 4 months with the committee. The committee will begin its research. It will go out and look at every single project, touch it, feel it, take pictures of it, question people, particularly managers, about a project that they may not have submitted, but that does impact them. So we are always keeping managers in the loop and asking them to participate. And that's good because they are members of our committee anyhow. They're ex officio, not voting members of Facilities and Grounds, and they do attend every meeting. So we then start pulling all that together, and each of these folk are assigned anywhere from 1 to 4 projects that they put together in a package form. That package form then is what we give to each of the managers, and then we begin what we call the delineating process. And what that means is we do exactly what you have received here. Everybody gets a complete copy of what the projects are all about. They in turn individually, each of the, used to have 4 managers, now we have 3. Mr. Nolan's included. He submits to us his thoughts on the project. And what they're asked to do, and let me make sure I stress this as hard as I can. Our mantra, our challenge, our walking motto is a project must be in the best interest of the whole community. Not driven by an agenda, not driven by a specific loud group that squawks a lot. What really in your mind is in the best interest of the community? So then when we give these project booklets back out to these folk, that's what they have to do. They have to make a decision on each of these. What would they rank them as best interest of the community? And as you look at some of these, and I'm just going to jump to one at the bottom real quick because it is one that will illustrate a point. We've been doing this for a lot of years. And the one you see at the bottom of the list now, which is the resculpturing of the green at Palo Verde, has been around as long as I've been here, 23 years, 24 years, whatever it's been. And every year, I can assure you, when you look at Facilities and Grounds, it ends up at the bottom. Not that it isn't a great project, not that it would add something to the golf course, but what it doesn't do is meet the standard of best interest of the whole community. Other projects take precedent over that. It would cost a lot of money, even if Scott does it, or in conversation with him. But for us to say that there are 1,200 golfers, and of those golfers, there are X number of them that play Palo Verde, and you start narrowing that down to those that think it needs to be improved or changed, the group gets smaller. And so we look at that and say, you know what? It's a nice project, would really add to the golf course, but it doesn't meet our standard. That's why you find it at the bottom every year. Okay, with all that said, then when we get the package done, we pass it on to you, usually in a form, first a form like this, which is followed by a document like this. I'm going to spend a few minutes referencing this document because it's important to us. These folk spend a lot of hours. This committee, you don't understand how hard they work for you. They are trying to give you as much information as possible for decision making. So everything that's in this book is our best thought on that individual project. So as I go through these, what I want to do is just, I'm going to reference them back in case you want to do some checking on your own. Of the projects, you have 11 of them now that are before you that came through the board management, long-range planning team, and then into facilities and grounds. There were added 4 new projects that came out of the board management, long-range planning team. Those projects are the first one on your list, the 5th one on your list, the 7th one on your list, and the 9th one on your list. Those would be called new projects for 2021. They did not originate with facilities and grounds. Facilities and grounds looked at them, got all the data they could, and you can see how those new projects came out in the ranking. Understand managers' input, they have the same vote as each of us, skew what the data shows. The second one on your list, repurposing the old fitness center. This has been kind of a harbinger of goodwill for facilities and grounds. A lot of people want a piece of that place. We had a lot of folk appear before us over the last year or two, asking for space for this, space for that, whatever. So what I want to do, just so you understand, and I hope you will look at it, you would look in your notebook at project number 3, project number 4, project number 7, and project 9A, all relate directly to this. You'll find pictures, you'll find the diagrams that show you the various thoughts that came along with this project. And to the board management long range team's credit, they consolidated most of that into this project. But you may want to look back just to see the kind of things that's there. There's some really thoughtful information, folks, but you got to look at it. The replacement of the deco drains, that's number 2 in our project book from, and let me tell you this so we don't forget which side here. Because of our lost year, this is from March 2020. We submitted this to you in March 2020 for 21. Well, we know what bit us in the butt. So this is still a living document, if you will. It still is germane to everything that will happen with your decision making. So the deco drains, that was one we had visited before with Jim. So we had already decided that was a vital project. We looked at it, touched it, walked on it, saw the problems he was encountering. Project number 4, obviously that's the LED lighting. One of the specific projects was this room, and it was in the projects we sent to you to redo the lighting in this room. Thank you, Jim. Done, off the board. But he's going to continue with LED lighting on the community, as Frank already pointed out. Number 5, that's new in terms of it came out of management this year for 21. The update of the decor in the Palo Verde restaurant, that again is one of those that comes in many colors. Any discussion you have about this will involve 147 million ideas on what we should do. And half of that 147 million don't make a tinker's dam. They really don't. But reality is, as we look at our whole community and what's coming down the pipe for us, you may want to dismantle this committee in the near future because there's going to be a lot of work to do unless we begin these kinds of things where we're looking at infrastructure remodeling. So is this a vital project? It came out number 6 out of 11, so it was not a top drawer item. But for those of us, many folks in this community that use Palo Verde, it's becoming outdated, and we know that. And it does need some kind of uplift, whatever that might be. And don't ask us to tell you what to do, because even the color would tick somebody off. So we're going to stay out of what should be done. We just say, yeah, this is a viable project. I would ask you to look at number 5B in this book. It will give you some, I think, some idea, or at least show you some of the things they thought needed to be updated. So it's there. Number 7, the hands-free bathroom fixture thing that came out this year. That's a new project. Jim has told us, and what you I'll reiterate what you said, Frank, and that is, it'll happen when there is a need to do something with a facility, he'll make it that. So to do them all is a very expensive venture, Jim has indicated. Extending the walking paths in the 5 Lakes common area. In your blue book, you will find the pictures, maybe even some diagrams in there, and some dialogue about what this project means or would mean to this community. And let me talk just a minute about would mean to the community. We are fastly changing the age of our population. I have encountered so many people that I wonder if I could be their father. It's getting to that point. I just had niece and nephew move here. They're 56 years old. I got children that old, so that kind of scary. Anyway, point I'm making is what we're finding, and our committee found this in just conversation. Walking is something that generation embraces. They like to get out and move. Extending walking paths is something that really is going to take a lot of imagination on your part, the community's part, F&G's part. There's a lot of places we can go with expanding paths. But one of the things we really need to look at is the 5 Lakes area. That's kind of our hidden gem, if you will. That place is, it's never neglected, I don't think at all. Our people are doing a great job. But it's one of those best kept secrets. And as people find out, not only the beauty of walking there, but that you can walk for a mile in that lake area, we'll see some of those younger people start that. Because I know of 2 that just realized it was there. And they live in Cottonwood. They just figured this out. And they're going to start walking there. So the extension of it, there are some ideas in here. This is one of those that you're going to have to be creative, board, as you direct. You can't tick off an existing homeowner. Even though your job is always to look to the future, you're also responsible for the present. And you can't beat up somebody that's here just because in 10 years it's going to be this. What you have to do is blend the two. And that's a difficult job for a board. I understand that, but that's what you're going to have to do. Look at the 5 lakes, look at the areas where you could extend it, and show, if nothing else, some goodwill. Do something so they see it is really happening. This has been around a long, long time. As long as I've been associated with facilities and grounds, there has been a proposal to extend the paths. Quite often it comes out of Recreation Committee, which I think it did last year when we did this one. Okay, tree planting. We have in your blue book again, it's not Kelly's blue books, Hawk's blue book. No, facilities and grounds blue book, not mine. I can't put it together. Anyway, number 8. Let me see. Oh, excuse me, number 10 in the book will give you some little bit of dialogue about the importance of this. And as we talk to the managers that deal with it, in this case Scott, they're all understand the importance of trees. They understand the need to replace when one is gone, find other places to put them. And I think this is something we would just call an ongoing project that you allow those men to continue doing as they go. We get not beat up, but every year we have someone come to the facilities and grounds and say, we would really like to have more trees. And so we know it's on the minds of homeowners. So please put it on your mind somewhere and let that manager do his thing. The holding area at Sis Park, number 9, believe it or not, that has been around before. It's come in different forms. At one time, the big concern was not necessarily Sis Park, but the entire walking path. If you've ever walked that path, it's all a gravel drainage area, kind of thing. But it also became a holding place for water. standing water that produce mosquitoes. And I know Steve's phone rang off the hook many, many years because of that. And we did some things with, now Don, I don't know if I get this terminology you told me, tornado, hurricane, some kind of hole in the ground. That they put a bunch of those in. And that did help. And it kind of cleaned up the area. The Sis Park area is something that Facilities and Grounds knows that as we've proposed projects there, you can't do even an extension to the existing Ramada there, because that is considered a county water holding area. So we can't do any more Sis Park. But what we can do, now Don, what's that other kind of thing they talked about? Some kind of big hole in the ground.
It's a pre-engineered dry well.
You heard it from the official. Okay, so that may be something, and cost of that may be, it's probably pretty expensive to do it, but as you look at complaints you get, you might keep that in mind as a solution. The last thing we've already discussed is the golf green at Palo Verde, and believe it or not, Scott, got a good guy in Scott. He's Johnny on the spot with stuff. He was already back to us with an idea of what he could do, that he could do in-house, that wouldn't cost the big bucks that we always talked about before. And as he said, that probably isn't on the immediate agenda, but it is something that could be done at little cost to us and probably satisfy some of those golfers. Okay, coming, we will be starting next month. That will be the charge as the committee leaves for the summer, is to begin the process of looking for it. So that's where we're at. That's what we've done. Read the blue book, folks. Makes us happy to know you're ready.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to your committee and all the work that you do.
Take a bow.
I will say that committee works very hard. We're going to ask the committee to continue working hard and bring projects to us and everything. There's one thing that this board has talked about, and that is having that project earlier in the year as possible. Only because we have to get started on some of these projects, and some of these projects, we aren't going to be able to do all of them this year, so we know that 2022 is going to be another busy year for us, but we need that work as soon as possible. Whoops, I have the wrong sheet in front of me. Next we have, starting here, this is homeowners' comments. Are there any homeowners in the audience that would like to address the board? Did I forget? Oh, yeah. Back up, reverse.
Okay, I wasn't quick enough.
I made my note there and went on, didn't I? Sorry. This is board management discussion and comments. We've heard from the Facilities and Grounds. We looked at this. Can we go down the list? Can we have some discussion here in reference to these recommended lists? All those have some things that we'd like to see. Don, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I'll be glad to. Frank pretty well explained the list. The replacement of the Cottonwood pump station will be completed by the end of May. Frank mentioned that plans are almost complete for the repurposing of the old fitness center. And we'll be getting those shortly, and there will be a workshop planned for presenting those plans to the community. Our architect, Ken Heller, will make that presentation. Number 3 is replacing the deco drains and concrete around the main Cottonwood main pool deck. We we've eliminated and concrete. We've looked at that concrete deck very, very carefully and have decided that with a little repair, that concrete deck will give us good service for many years to come. The deco drains, not so. The deco drains are unsafe due to the expansion and contraction of the concrete deck. Those drains need replacing badly. And Jim and his crew have decided that we need to put Zern type drains in the way we have around the lap pool. It's a new, reasonably new drainage system and lasts much longer and is a much better system. We have obtained prices on that, and it goes all the way from not too bad to really bad. It ranges all the way from $65,000 to about $280,000. So it's a big range, and it's a big range because some companies won't bid just replacing the deco drains. They want to do the whole thing, and we don't need the whole thing done. Therefore, the big number. We will get that project on this month's agenda for approval by the board for some $65,000 to replace those deck drains. Replacement of the irrigation system on Riggs Road, that is in the plan to do within the next few months. And we will do the east section from Alma School down to almost the corner of Arizona Avenue. And next year we'll do the west end from Alma School down to Dobson. So we're kind of splitting that up for a couple of reasons. We'd be hard pushed to get all that done this year, and we want to defer part of that cost into next year's plan. So you'll see that same item on the 2022 capital project list. The update of the decor of the Malvern restaurant, we have a list of things that the management of that area would like to do, and our general manager and the management of that area is going through that list now to pare it down, and when they get that list pared down, that will be turned back to the facilities and grounds for review, and we'll start on that. And there's not a whole lot of money involved. There's several small items such as maintenance, painting, redecorating here, redecorating there. So it's not a lot of money. We're not talking about moving walls and replacing sound systems, that sort of stuff. It's all fairly minor. I'll skip the hands-free things. Extension of the walking path, we are looking hard at that, and we realize the problem we're faced with. If a homeowner bought a home in that area and he had a nice view with nobody walking by and looking at his house, he doesn't want a walking path there. He didn't buy a walking path. So it's going to be a real balancing act and a lot of salesmanship involved in selling anything to those folks, but we're looking at it. We haven't turned our back on it. Improving the water holding area at the end of Saguaro. We've looked at a engineered dry well for that area, and we're not talking about a lot of money. We're talking under $15,000, and it will really improve that area. It will get rid of most of the standing water. I don't think we'll ever get rid of all of it, because we still have, hopefully, heavy rains in our future. We sure need it. And the resculpturing of the green, Scott's working on that. So the list for 2021, I think most of that can, if not be accomplished, at least will be well along by the end of 2021, and I think we can get a lot of those items done. Going forward, Richard hit it right on the head. Infrastructure. Most of the big things are done. We have a new admin building, we have a new fitness activity center, we have 3 new pickleball courts that will be open shortly. We're land bound. There's not much else we can do in the way of structures or additional facilities for pickleball or anything else. But we have to keep in mind our association is some 40 plus years old. We have a lot of pipelines, water lines, sewer lines, and a lot of electrical underground. And you're not going to see any of that, but that's going to cost some money to replace. And some of it is rear and its ugly head right now. The latest one to rear its ugly head is the sewer line that connects the Palo Verde restaurant bar facilities to the main sewer line. We just had to replace that. And that's not the only thing we need to replace. We've got to replace the other pump stations. In the near future, we've got to replace underground pipelines that feed water from lake to lake. They're getting bad, beginning to leak. The golfers understand our golf course irrigation systems, they're getting old, and we're spending an awful lot of money in maintaining those, repairing those. You see holes every time you play golf where they've had to dig up valves and sprinkler heads, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that's going to rear its head in the next 5 years. So there's going to be plenty of work for the Facilities and Grounds Committee to do, believe me. And in closing, I want to thank the Facilities and Grounds Committee for their hard work, because this list was accomplished in a very, very short period of time because of COVID. And the committee responded in kind very quickly. Researched the list, took the time to rank it. And if I had to rank it, I wouldn't have ranked it much differently than they did. So, not that I'm so smart, but you guys are, and I really appreciate your hard work. I really do, and I appreciate the timing of it, the timeliness. You guys jumped right on it and got it done for us, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Steve, you have anything that you would like to talk about?
No, I think Don and Richard covered it all. We're starting to see underground issues. Scott has brought a couple to me recently. I think Don's aware of them. That our light feeds as our community ages, that's some of our major issues are the infrastructure. So I think we're on it. I think the facility and grounds committee is doing a great job of getting us the projects, ranking them correctly. So awesome job.
Thank you, Steve. Any board members or anybody else that has some comments or would like to make some suggestions?
I have a question I'd like to ask. Is
Okay,
that okay?
sure.
It's for Richard. I'm kind of new here, Richard, and I'm really new to this process. And so I heard you, okay. So I heard you
But he gets
say,
his hearing aids next Tuesday.
I'm sorry. We love seeing your face up here. Yeah, so I was listening to you talk about the list, and you talked about this last one on that list, that it had been on there, the resculpture, the number 5 green. It had been on there for lots of years. And you had decided that, you weren't so sure about the benefit. So does that mean that there are no other projects that would have more benefit to the community that might replace that?
Here's the answer is what I probably should have said.
I want to ask you to move to the microphone so the people at home can hear you too.
I neglected and probably should have said that every project we gets respect. Every project is passed on to you in some form. We may not personally appreciate support, but it's passed on. So a project like that comes every year. The golf committee sends it out every year. And every year we respect what they want done. We research it and we put it on for you. So that's what it is. Every project you get. There's not a project that comes to us that we don't pass on to you. So you will get every scrap of them.
Okay,
And the ranking, of course, is something different. That's a collaborative thing, but you do get every single project.
okay, great, thanks.
That cover
Thank you, Richard. I'm going to ask for an explanation. I think I know the answer. This one project, and we've talked about it a few times and everything. This has to do with, let me get where, it's number 9 on our list. Improve the water holding area at the end of the Sis Park walking path. Now, my conversation with Steve, my conversation with Don, my understanding is this is at the south end near Hunt Highway. Am I correct?
That's correct. There's a area there about, I would guess it's about an acre. And it's been graded down. It's the lowest point in that area. And there's a lot of riprap, heavy rock in there. And from Sisk Park north to all the way south to Hunt Highway, that is the collection basin of all of that area's drainage, which includes the little court streets that back up to that walking path area. And in the past, it doesn't take a whole lot of rain for that basin to have some standing water, and we've had a lot of mosquito problems through the years. And we can install a engineered dry well there consisting of a 4-foot diameter concrete sleeve down into the ground and drilling down. We drilled down some 70 feet over at the Fitness Activity Center, and that is filled full of gravel and is reduced down to 24-inch diameter with a manhole cover, perforated manhole cover on top, set at an elevation slightly below existing, and all the water coming from that area will drain into that dry well. And I would expect that would, if not completely eliminate standing water, would certainly reduce the standing water to the point where within a 24-hour dry period, it would percolate into the ground and there would be no standing water for mosquitoes to gestate.
Okay, I'm sorry, Gay, go ahead.
So Don, what you just described, the process, what do you call it, a dry well, yeah. Is that, all of that is what you mentioned earlier, that would be an estimated $115,000?
No, that wouldn't cost more than $15,000.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, my reason for asking that question is because we refer so much to Sisk Park. I don't want anybody to go away from here thinking that's it right at where the Sisk Park, this is at the south end. Okay, near Hunt Highway. Okay, we had some rain many years ago during the summer and that was flooded
For quite a while.
quite a while. Okay. Now, board members and management, I'm going to ask you, before we go to homeowners' comments, is there any suggestions at this time for projects that would probably be moved to next year? I'm not saying that we have to move projects to next year. I'm just talking about a suggestion before we get down to talking about them.
The only one I have, Mr. President, is the one I talked about, and that is to split item number 5, ranked number 5, into 2 parts. One part
Okay.
this year, that is the east end from Alma School east, and leaving the west end on 2022 projects, moving the west end to 2022.
Okay? Okay, you have something?
Yeah, and this, Jim, you got it. Oh, back there. On the one for installing the hands-free bathroom fixtures, Jim, did you say that this would be done as they are needed, as current ones, fixtures need repair or replacement?
That is correct,
Okay, so it wouldn't be something to be done all at one time, it'd be on an as needed.
as needed basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dave. Any other comments, board members? Now I may move on to homeowners' comments. Are there any homeowners in the audience? Jim Miller has a microphone. If you please stand up and say who your name is, or excuse me, Ed.
My name is Ed Schauble. I'm here specifically to talk about the extending walking paths to number 8 kind. During the course of my investigation about installing fountains on 5 lakes, I bet I had 50 trips to my golf cart around the Great Lakes, around the lakes. There was a few people in next door who lobbied or were suggesting that we extend the walking paths around the 3 lakes that don't have them. The North Lake and the Center Lake, of course, had paths, walking paths all the way around them. So just because I'm anal, I thought I would look into just what we're talking about. And it turns out it could be not too bad if you're willing to accept that in a couple of places, the terrain just, I don't know how you get it in, especially, for example, the north side of the East Lake. About half the east end is okay, a lot of trees to miss, but it's very narrow at the eastmost end, very narrow and sloped. How you get a path in there, we can do anything, us engineer types. I had talked at one time with a fellow by the name of Miller about what we might encounter in the way of expenses for something like that. And it was a swag for sure. And I can't remember whether it was concrete or asphalt, but we had a per foot kind of swaggy number. And through Google, I was able to get approximate footages of just how much we were talking about and so on and so forth. Bottom line, I was coming up with around $100,000. Now, that's not extreme for a lot of the projects that we're involved in. But I really wonder whether that project passes the smell test. For example, it was proposed by people who apparently are unable to walk on grass and therefore get around the lake where there is no walking path now. Well, I'm sorry about that, but you could walk to the end of the concrete and reverse and walk back if you need to get a certain amount of walking in. So in my opinion, that doesn't really impact much of the population of our 3,809 residences that we have here. So and the impact on trees to get them out of the way, I think there would be a lot of objection, especially from the homeowners in the immediate area. And that's really all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Shovel. Any other homeowners? Bob Miller, would you please stand? You know who you are, but please introduce yourself.
Bob Newer, homeowner. Couple of comments. I know we've been doing concrete walking paths. I know though that a lot of communities try to put in surfaces that allow water to percolate through them, though they're not, in many cases, totally smooth and level. They tend to start picking up a little bit of a ripple in them, and you can feel it when you're walking across them. But they might be something to consider because some of our areas are sloped quite a bit, and there was a concern what it would take to cut into that slope in order to make a flat level concrete match. And I guess, as I recall, the blue book is available over in the admin building. I think I saw that for the first time this year.
I'd have to check on that. It is there.
Yeah, at least last year's one was there back in the building. And I guess the presentation on the old fitness center, any guesstimate on when we're going to?
Guesstimate is probably somewhere fall.
Okay,
It will not happen this summer, where they aren't that close.
because I thought the plans were going for permits as soon as the plans came back,
Correct.
but you're going for permits before you have the meeting on what's involved with the homeowners?
The plans are finalized. The plans are finalized. The plans are finalized. They're going to the county. The workshop will be to present what homeowners requested that the facility grounds. For example, the stained glass crafters, computer learning center people, the racket sports people. It'll all give Ken Eller will explain the layout of the rooms, and he's been working directly with myself and those homeowners that came to facility grounds that requested space that they felt they needed for various purposes.
Okay, so we'll just be getting information that's already been finalized. It sounds like it's already been finalized, and we'll just, in 5-6 months, we'll get the information as homeowners.
Well, you could have the workshop earlier, but I think Roger's talking about waiting till homeowners get back to do a workshop. Doesn't really matter when you do the workshop, the plans are finalized, correct?
I see, thank you.
Okay. No other comments from homeowners? Noted. Next on the agenda is for us to, as board members, to finalize the project list. This is where we say this is what we want to start with, and this is the first number 1 or number 1 through 6 or 1 through 12, whatever the number may be. And I'm looking for something, we've kind of identified 4 items there that are immediate that we're in the process of doing. So could I have a movement or a motion from the board members to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Let's make sure that we understand the ones that we have identified as the first 4 would be to repair or replace the golf course pump station at Cottonwood Golf Course, the repurposing of the old fitness center, the replacing of the deco drains at the Cottonwood main pool, and update the decor in the Palo Verde restaurant. Is that correct? There's
No, Mr. President, I thought,
I missed one?
yeah, on the last one that you mentioned, I think we agreed on replacing and improving the irrigation system
Then I made a mistake there.
on Ridge Road. That is from
Almost.
west to east on Ridge Road from Alva School.
Okay. So number 1 through 4, number 1 is to replace the golf course pump stations that serve Cottonwood Golf Course, the repurposing of the old fitness center, replace the deco drains of the Cottonwood main pool, and update the improved irrigation system from Alma School towards Hunt Highway to the end of the property. Am I correct?
From Alva School to Arizona Avenue.
Arizona Avenue.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's the motion that you made that's on the floor. Am I
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay. Board members, are there any questions? Homeowners, are there any questions? All those in favor say aye, and those opposed say nay. Now, my understanding is that we have a few items on this list that are continuing and will be as needed, such as the hands-free bathroom fixtures. We have some items that are under review that we won't place them now until we get some more information, and that is to extend the walking path and improve the water holding area at at the end of Sisk Park walking path, and the resculpturing of the number 5 green at Palo Verde Golf Course. Those are going to be under review, and no, we're not going to prioritize them at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Correct me and tell me where I am on the update to the decor of the Palo Verde restaurant. Is that just being reviewed?
That's under review between Steve, the general manager, and the manager of food and beverage.
Okay.
And we're gonna take it back to facility grounds
Are you?
with what we come up with as far as what needs to be done.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so we know what's going back to facilities and grounds.
We'll have some.
We'll have something. Okay. All right. Frank?
Yeah, I got more of a question than a comment, but the the water holding area at the end of Sis Park, it sounds like you got a good idea of what's needed. So I'm assuming in the near future, there'll probably be a recommendation to the board to do that work.
I would say, I would answer that, Frank, that probably by late summer, very early fall, we'll have our arms around that and be ready to go, and maybe before then, but
Okay.
certainly by then.
That's what it sounded like based on, your presentation, what you said. So I said, yes, I was thinking that would be done this year.
Yes.
So really, we can take that project right there and make it number 5? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, we can do that, Mr. President. I would like to amend our motion.
There you go.
I move we add number 5 to the prior 4 that we voted on, and that is the water retention dry well at the end of the Sis Park drainage.
Board members, there needs to be a second to that.
I'll second it.
Questions and comments? Homeowners, questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. That takes care of the list. This is we did a good job. Facilities and grounds did a great job. This is a start. This is just my opinion, that this is just a start of getting some of this infrastructure done. We need to do it.
And I'd like to say one more time, I really appreciate the timeliness of the Facilities and Grounds Committee jumping right on this list and doing their due diligence. It's unheard of that projects moving that quickly after we sat on our hands all year in 2020. I really appreciate you guys' hard work. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments from the board members? If I'm not hearing none, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.